So it's Thanksgiving Day, but it's also October and I like to dress up, so I'm wearing a witchy sort of thing today. And I'm having carrot juice, celery juice, and water. And James is having an omelet, and mostly made from yolks because I'm going to be using the whites to make him some cream cheese filled peppers, which I'm using a mixture of cream cheese plus the pulp from the carrot juice, which both he and I are drinking. So now I'm going to mention a few more things about this book, Apple Cider Vinegar, by, well, I think Patricia Bragg, but it's unclear. Paul Bragg's name is at the bottom too, but I don't think she wrote it. Anyway, so I made a few more notes. I want to mention that at the end, the about the author pages, which they devoted one to each of them. You can go ahead and eat, James. They don't mention what their PhDs are in. So it could be theology, because they do mention God a lot. And this is insane. To wear this wig, I would have to... This is driving me crazy.
You'd have to be going like this.
Yeah.
Who went like that, Tiny Tim?
I don't know.
It's hilarious.
But, and honestly, I don't know what N.D. stands for either.
What is that?
At the end of their names. So they each have N.D. and PhD.
No degree.
I don't know. I don't know what it means. So anyway, there's that. And the book ends with another 6 pages of praises, testimonials. So this
6
is,
pages,
I mean, yeah, and this is not very thick. So
No.
when you consider a lot of the...
That's 6% of the text. I like that, though.
Yeah, you gotta love the pictures. But,
If that guy's 106, that's his IQ. What is that?
I don't know. That's unclear too. Anyway, so there's a lot of testimonials in this very thin edition, and it ends like, I actually do like this. The ending pages look like the end of...
a newspaper.
No. Comic books. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
well, it's even worse than newspapers.
So,
yeah, you're right.
you could buy a Bragg book special, all 10, for only $89.
Yeah, buy X-ray specs.
Exactly.
Buy magic bubble gum.
Yes. If they throw
Buy
in a
sea
free
monkeys.
pair of X-ray specs and a package of sea monkeys, I think it's worth it. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, page 85. Average tap water contains chlorine, fluoride, calcium carbonate, cadmium, aluminum, trihalomethanes, chloroform, arsenic, copper, lead. Toxins penetrate through genital area is estimated 100%, but only 8.6% for forearm. Hot shower can liberate 50% of chloroform, 80% of trichloroethylene into the air. We absorb more toxic chlorine from a 10-minute shower than drinking 8 glasses of the same water. Warm water opens pores, so we not only inhale vapors, but absorb toxins into wide open pores. Showering in chlorinated water is one of the most dangerous risks you take daily. That was page 87. Page 88, chlorine hardens arteries, destroys cells, tissues, irritates skin, sinus, asthma. Chloroform causes excessive free radical formation. It causes normal cells to mutate, cholesterol to form. DCA, dichloroacetic acid, alters cholesterol metabolism and causes liver cancer in animals. MX, toxic chlorinated acid byproduct of chlorination, causes genetic mutations and increases cancer growth. Chlorinated water is a direct cause of 9% of U.S. bladder cancer and 15% of rectal cancers, and rise in heart disease. Baths are less risk than showers. Page 89. How so? I don't know. I can't understand why that would be. So they suggest using a filter on your shower arm to take the...
That's good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound unreasonable to me. And it wouldn't be expensive. They say you'd replace the filter cartridge or whatever every year. It doesn't seem like it would be very expensive, and then it puts your mind at ease. So whatever, that sounds reasonable to me. Page 109, detox soak, bathe 20 minutes with 1 cup of Epsom salts or apple cider vinegar. It might not have been 1 cup of apple cider vinegar. I should actually check that on page 109. I don't know how much.
It was a whole bath full.
You just fill your tub with... I mean, we could. We probably still could do that with the amount of apples that are in the tree, but getting them down is another matter. And they mention dry brushing on page 108, which I think that's a good idea. If you haven't tried dry brushing, then look that up. It's easy. And I love Epsom salt baths. I mean, if you're thinking of detox, great, but if you're also thinking the magnesium will help you sleep, that's terrific too. So what a perfect way to end an evening. And 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to pet water bowl, they suggest, page 115. Because it's healthy for your pets too, they're saying. So, oh, I forgot to drink my juice. I get busy talking. So there, I finished talking about that one. I don't know if you want to borrow it from your library. That's all I did. I wouldn't spend money on it.
No, why pay money for a lot of ads? I guess it's like buying a newspaper, though. Or a magazine.
Yeah, like there's a lot of information in there. And a lot of it, like I don't question too much of it because I have researched it elsewhere. And elsewhere, I've found the data which supports their claims, but they haven't done that. So when you read this book, they don't show where their information comes from, and you would have to do the additional research yourself just to verify it. Because, yeah. Anyway, whatever. Like the thing about the hot bath being less toxic than shower. I can't understand how that would be. Yum. Carrot juice is so easy to drink. Aquafaba by Sebastian Cardinal and Laura Vegan Power. She actually changed her last name to Vegan Power. Or just for the book, I don't know. So.
Impressive.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
Now, this book is not very long, but it really doesn't need to be. Because basically you only need to know that chickpea water, or any bean water, will work as a substitute for egg whites and baking. That's all you really need to know. You need to know the measurements. So page 10, I guess that Joel Rosell, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, 2014 blog Revolution Vegetal was the first to use aquafaba. Experiment by replacing egg whites. 1 egg equals 3 tablespoons aquafaba, or 2 tablespoons equals 1 egg white. And yeah, anyway, whatever. I think you can be pretty free and easy about those measurements too. From my experience, I don't measure a lot. I look at things and I go, that's about right. That feels about right, or a little more, whatever. If I need things a little more sticky or a little... I'm not a baker, though. With baking, you have to be a little more precise, and most of these recipes in here are baking recipes, and they look quite exciting. They say, and I didn't know this until now, so I did learn something reading this book. Page 6, chickpea aquafaba is commonly used because raw chickpea aquafaba isn't poisonous, unlike other kinds, and can therefore be used in both its raw and cooked forms. And I can't quite understand, though, how you would have raw chickpea aquafaba, because you get the aquafaba from, it's the water that from cooking the chickpeas. So I can't understand how any bean water would be raw. But anyway, that's what it's written there, and so it's worth looking into. And they say chickpea aquafaba is 90% water to 10% protein and starch, exact ratio of egg whites. When heated, page 7, aquafaba disappears quickly if it isn't used with another ingredient like sugar, guar gum, cream tartar, agar, or even a starch. Whisked aquafaba without sugar doesn't like to be cooked. And so if you try to fry it in a pan, well, you're not gonna get a fried egg white that way. It works for adding sticky to, like I've used it for dipping, for making a batter for on things, and it works great. So instead of using the egg white, but since I was making James an omelet and whatever, I'm not going to be eating the peppers that I stuff with the egg whites. That'll work out fine. So they give lots of recipes that I've already known about how to make, and like mayo. It's not especially healthy, aquafaba, but I mean, there are some things you might miss occasionally, like mayo, and there you go. Now you have a recipe for it. If you use this book, it's on page 23. 24 is a recipe for pasta, and it works. I've tried it already in the past for pasta. I haven't tried this recipe, but it works great. It works just like egg for making your own pasta. So they use a beer batter thing, and I wouldn't do it the way they do it. It doesn't make sense to make a beer batter and let it sit for 30 minutes, because then you lose your bubbles. You lose you know how the batter gets all nice and frothy. Yeah. But there are other things, like aquafaba mousse looks good. Almond meringues looked amazing. That's on page 40. I totally recommend that if you like eating dessert thingies. And lots of fun things. They make a marshmallow spread, which I totally want to try, because then I can make a s'mores protein bar with this marshmallow spread. Even though James doesn't really care for the protein bar. But anyway, I'll have to monkey with it a bit for myself. But because this cookbook, they use a lot of, like, there's a lot of things here. Like, say, I'll look this one up, page 58. I don't know what yuzu zest is, for one thing. They use a lot of kind of fun ingredients that I have no idea what they are. Where was I, 58? I think so. So, I'll show you the picture of this. Doesn't that look fantastic? So they've made kind of like like a little bowl sort of thing, and then they've put some cream stuff and the cherries on. But and it's not real cream, it's vegan. But I don't understand why they made it white. Like, why not mix the cherry juice into the cream, the vegan cream, and then put that in there, and then it'd be a nice pink cream in a white cup. I don't know. I think it'd be more beautiful that way. But there's a lot of fun recipes in here that I think most people would really like to try. Now, my main problem with this book is most people won't even bother to try a single recipe in here. And I can tell you why. They first published this in France, and then they published it in London, I think it was. I don't know. Yep. And so then they marketed it over here without changing the measurements. And we do not use grams and milliliters for, sometimes we use milliliters, but not very often. For usually, you know, it's a funny thing about Canadians, because like technically we do use kilograms for weight and whatever, but we really don't. We think
Not for a person.
no, we don't. For when we're thinking of our own weight or whatever, I'm 115 pounds. What is that in kilograms? I have to actually do the conversion if I want to know. And so if I go to the doctor, they want to know kilograms. I don't know kilograms. But
yeah, they should be able to just take it. And
so they have to,
conversion thing.
yeah, they can convert it if they want to. But and nobody does. Nobody, like, I don't even think the younger generation than me uses. But my parents, like, the conversion happened with your generation, because my dad, he didn't know any of the measurements. Like, we were measuring in centimeters or whatever, but I couldn't tell you how many centimeters tall I am, even though that's what we were being taught in school. I don't think anybody in my generation actually learned that. So we were being taught that. But at home, we were actually, our parents were using the imperial system. So we didn't learn it at all. We didn't, in fact, I think we learned no system very well because of that whole conversion process. I think the children younger than me, the generation younger than me, I don't think they know anything at all either. So anyway, when we're reading cookbooks, we don't use these measurements. So you give me 600 grams of cooked chickpeas. Okay, well, I'm going to have to actually get my scale out. And I have a scale. But how many people do? How many people you have a scale at home? Like, I have a scale so I can weigh out my whatever, my tomatoes that I've grown, and think, wow, I've saved this much money by growing this myself, or whatever. It's just something I like to do, right? But most people wouldn't even have a scale at home for kitchen. They'd have one for weighing themselves in the bathroom, maybe, if they care, but not for... Anyway, so you might really love the look of... Not that. That didn't look very good. That looks alright. Ooh, that looks good. Lemon and bergamot meringue pie. But I think everybody would like this one more. Tiramisu. Looks very pretty. They did a good job. But you may like the look of that, but then you're looking at using 50 grams of almond butter and 100 grams of cane sugar and all these other things. And you won't even try. You might try 200 milliliters of strong coffee because you go, okay, well, 250 milliliters is a cup, right? So you might go, nah, just a little bit less. And you might be able to wing that measurement. But the other ones, this is going to be some major ballpark kind of recipe doing. And that's fine for me because that's all I do anyway. But check out those meringues. Fantastic. But for baking, you really should be precise about measurements. And yeah. So anyway, you're going to have to get yourself a kitchen scale and learn a whole new system of measurement if you're going to do it on this side of the drink.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't think anybody other than me, this one's from Coaldale Public Library, But I don't think anybody other than me in this area is going to even try any of these recipes. They'll read through this and they'll be like, oh, isn't that beautiful? But really all you need to know is the conversion, like how many, like a couple tablespoons equals an egg white. And then you just use any recipe you're familiar with using, because these recipes aren't particularly healthy. Like I've mentioned, sugar. They use a lot of sugar in here, or starch or whatever. And so yeah, that's not particularly healthy. So anyway, you should be able to pull Grandma's cookbook off the shelf and just 2 tablespoons of chickpea water, or any bean, and yeah, try out some new baking recipes. Make them vegan. And that's all.